She gave up her life to care for her dying father. That's what she told everyone. She cooked his meals. She drove him to appointments. She answered every call, every need, every moment of confusion that came with old age. And while her siblings went on with their lives, trusting her, thanking her, she was doing something else entirely. She was building a trap. It took years to set, and only one signature, on one late night, to spring it. Martin had 3 children. We'll call them Therese, Daniel, and Claire. For most of their adult lives, the 3 had a decent relationship. They didn't live in each other's pockets, but they showed up for birthdays, for holidays, for their father's health scares. Normal family stuff. Martin had written a will years earlier. Simple, fair. Everything split 3 ways. He'd been clear about it his whole life. He wanted his kids treated equally. Then Martin got old. He started having trouble with his memory. Small things at first, forgetting names, losing keys, repeating himself. His doctor noted cognitive decline. Nothing catastrophic, but enough to make him dependent, enough to make him vulnerable. That's when Therese made her move. She volunteered to move in. She framed it as sacrifice, the selfless daughter putting her life on hold for her father. Daniel and Claire were relieved, grateful even. They had jobs, kids, responsibilities. Having Therese there felt like a blessing, and for a while, it looked exactly like that. But there were small things, easy things to miss. When Daniel called, Therese would answer instead. Dad's resting. When Claire tried to visit, the timing was never quite right. He's had a hard week. Maybe next month. 1 month became 2. 2 became 6. Martin was still there. Still breathing. Still their father. But slowly, quietly, he was becoming someone they could no longer reach. Here's what Daniel and Claire didn't know. Every time Therese picked up Martin's phone, she was choosing what he heard and what he didn't. Every time she redirected a visit, she was reshaping his reality. Every conversation she wasn't part of became a threat she had to manage. This is called isolation, and it doesn't look like a locked door. It looks like a busy schedule. It looks like a caring daughter keeping things calm. It looks like love. It isn't. Therese started planting seeds. Dad, Daniel only calls when he needs money. Claire never really cared about you. You know that, right? Small sentences, repeated, over weeks and months, into the ears of a man whose memory was already slipping. This is what psychologists call undue influence. It's not a single manipulation. It's a slow replacement. The manipulator gradually substitutes their own desires for the victim's. The victim stops forming independent thoughts. They start echoing the person closest to them. Martin began to pull away from Daniel and Claire himself. He stopped returning their calls. When they visited, he seemed distant, confused. He repeated things Therese had said, almost word for word. Daniel noticed. He brought it up to Claire. "Something's wrong," he said. "It's like he's a different person." But what could they prove? Therese had an answer for everything. "He's just tired. You upset him last time. He asked me to tell you he needs space." She never raised her voice, never made a scene. She just kept the walls up, and behind those walls, she was already talking to a lawyer. On a night that Martin's medical records would later describe as a period of significant cognitive impairment, a lawyer arrived at the house. It was late. Martin was tired. The outline used to instruct the lawyer, the notes describing what the new will should say, had been written by Therese. Martin signed. The new will left everything to Therese. Daniel and Claire received nothing. Nobody called them. Nobody asked. Nobody gave Martin a night to sleep on it, to speak to his other children, to talk to anyone outside of that room. Daniel and Claire didn't find out until their father died. They got the call about his passing on a Tuesday. They were grieving, broken, ready to come together as a family. Then they heard about the will. Claire described it later as 2 griefs at once, losing her father and losing him again. They contested it in probate court. The legal process was slow and painful. They had to reconstruct months of evidence, phone records, medical reports, witness accounts, the timeline of how the will was drafted. But the picture that emerged was undeniable. Their father, in his most vulnerable state, had been systematically cut off from the people who loved him. His fear had been manufactured. His trust had been redirected. And his final legal act had been engineered by someone who had made herself impossible to question. The judges examined three things. First, was there a confidential relationship between Therese and Martin? Yes. Undeniably, she controlled his home, his communications, his medical care. Second, did she play an active role in forming the new will? Yes. She wrote the outline, she arranged the lawyer, she was present at the signing. Third, did she benefit unfairly? The entire estate went to her. Her siblings received nothing. All three conditions of undue influence met. The court invalidated the 2019 will. Entirely, the original 2018 will, the one that split everything equally, was restored. Therese walked away with nothing she had schemed for. Let's break this down. Therese never screamed, never threatened, never locked a door. She used proximity and dependency as weapons. She made herself the only person Martin needed, and then she used that position to rewrite his world. This is one of the most dangerous manipulation patterns in existence, precisely because it looks like care. Psychologists identify three elements that make undue influence possible: a confidential relationship, dependency, and isolation. When all three are present, the victim's free will doesn't disappear all at once. It erodes, quietly, over time. Here are three signs to watch for. 1. A family member starts acting as a gatekeeper for someone vulnerable, controlling visits, managing calls, always having an excuse. 2. That same person begins making accusations against others. They don't really care about you. The goal isn't honesty. The goal is isolation. 3. Important decisions, legal, financial, medical, are rushed, made late, made without outside witnesses, made without time to reflect. You don't have to be elderly to be vulnerable to this. Grief, illness, financial desperation, loneliness, these all create dependency. And dependency is the door that certain people know exactly how to walk through. The most dangerous betrayals never announce themselves. They arrive with meals, with phone calls answered on your behalf, with the quiet reassurance that someone is finally taking care of everything. By the time you realize what's been taken from you, your relationships, your autonomy, your voice, the trap has already closed. Martin never knew what was happening. He died believing his children had abandoned him. That's not a story about inheritance. That's a story about what happens when the person closest to you decides that your love is a resource to be mined. If you recognized any of these patterns in your own family, in someone you know, you're not alone. Subscribe for more on the manipulation tactics most people never see coming.